Netflix has just dropped a 2-part limited documentary series, Jerry Springer Fights, Camera and Action, which details the show from 1991 all the way to 2018, The Jerry Springer Show, and this is told over 2 episodes. But is it worth your time? Yes and no. I feel like they could have delved a lot more into this. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel and thank you so much for sparing your own time out to check out this video. I really do appreciate it. My name's Mike if you're brand new here, or if you're coming back you may already know that, but I appreciate you stopping by to hear my thoughts on this brand new Netflix documentary limited series, Jerry Springer Fights, Camera and Action. So in these 2 episodes, which are less than 50 minutes each, so they're pretty easy to get through. At least it's not like 10 parts to it, but it could have definitely been a little bit more, and we'll talk about that as we go along. This chronicles the Jerry Springer Show from being a daytime TV show to the point where it was then put on at like 2 o'clock in the morning because the ratings were that bad, and in the rating stats against like Oprah and other channels at the time and talk shows, this was suffering until Richard Dominique took the helm as the executive producer. And him being known for these kind of tabloid, crazy headlines, he took over the show and made it a hit. This eventually became #1, beating Oprah at the time, who was getting like 14 million views kind of per episode or per season, however that worked in America. So it is crazy the journey that the Jerry Springer Show went on, and throughout these 2 episodes we hear from the executive producer himself, Richard Dominique, and we also hear from the other producers, which include Tobias Yoshimura, Annette Grundy and Melinda Mele. And we also get some archival footage of Jerry Springer. So what did I like about this documentary and what did I dislike? Okay, so for the stuff that I actually liked about it, it was really interesting to see a behind the scenes look at what went on of the Jerry Springer Show, the pressure that the producers were under to try get these stories and take these tips from the hotlines and then of course schedule them to then be onto the show. But what's also crazy is before the people who went on to the show, the producers would be backstage to rally them up and get them angry and get them in their feels and emotions because they thought that made for better TV. And then these people would take it out, as you would see on the Jerry Springer Show, in fights. A lot of the time their problems would actually never get resolved. It would more just be about having a fight because that's what people wanted to see, and that's what made for ratings. And I felt that was quite interesting because I have seen a Jerry Springer Show. I actually grew up on it being a teenager, and I actually really enjoyed the Jerry Springer Show, but I would always walk away and think, well, hold on, their relationship hasn't been resolved. The issue at hand hasn't really had a satisfying conclusion. It would just be the case of them having a fight, and that was the end of the episode. So there's a lot that leaves it to be desired, and it was a shame not to hear any brand new evidence or any brand new thoughts from Jerry Springer himself, because unfortunately he did pass away in 2023. RIP to Jerry Springer. I do remember that news when it broke and I was certainly shocked. But yeah, I just feel as if this documentary kind of leaning into the negatives, despite it having a very useful insight and a lot of information I personally didn't know. I felt in a way this was a lot of hypocritical opinions and a lot of stuff here that could have been expanded upon if they were to make a real documentary out of this. Now, what I mean by that, this is only 2 episodes, less than 50 minutes each, so they do fly by. But we don't really ever hear from any people that were actually on the Jerry Springer Show at the time and the repercussions of their episodes and what that actually had in their daily life once they went back home, because this show even admitted that once the contestants left the studio, that was it. They were never checked upon, their mental health was left to suffer, their like physical relationships and like the abuse turmoil that they went through was never checked upon, or they had like any therapy or guidance given to them. None of that was ever applicable with the Jerry Springer Show, and we do learn from that from one person who does come on here with a bit of a backstory of his mum was on an episode of the Jerry Springer Show, and her partner at the time was also dating another woman. And in real life, that relationship actually transpired to that mum actually being murdered, unfortunately. And her son is on here to say, look, the repercussions of this episode, the repercussions of what his mum went on, which at the time he believes that she wasn't fully aware of what was happening. And you can kind of see that, and that's kind of evident in a way to how that episode transpired and how the contestant talent, I guess you could say, how they showcased on that episode. And this hypocrisy that I'm talking about is no one actually takes accountability for that possibly happening from the Jerry Springer Show. The producers themselves go on more of a pity party all this time later about how hard their job was in booking this talent and how their jobs were constantly a threat. And I understand, it was a different timepiece where a lot of the stuff what happened on Jerry Springer Show would definitely not happen nowadays. The standards of working backstage would not happen nowadays. But these producers went on, despite them having threats of their job being cancelled or they would be fired tomorrow from Richard Dominique, the executive producer. But yet they sit down for this documentary to get a payday. And one of the guy, Tobias, is like, well, after this, I'm never talking about this show ever again. But again, he came to Netflix as they obviously approached him, but he took the payday. If it scarred him that much as he goes on that it does, and how much it broke him, then surely you wouldn't sign to do the documentary. You'd be like, look, that's behind me in my past. I never want to talk about that again. But yet he sits down to talk about it. And as I say, we never actually hear from any of the talent that were actually on Jerry Springer and hear their backstory of how it affected them. We only hear from the producers' opinions and Richard Dominique and how brutal that he was and this tyrant. And, he doesn't deflate that allegations whatsoever. He's like, yeah, I know I would have done X, Y, and Z to make this show a success. I wanted to do whatever I can to get the ratings. And in the meantime, him and Jerry Springer definitely pocketed a great payday. But Jerry Springer in archival footage says that if none of this was real and they were putting on, fake shows, that he would not do the show. He would walk away. But of course, he's not alive to hear his perspective, to hear if any of it was faked or if it wasn't. All we just get is archival footage. And I feel this could have definitely been at least 4 episodes, and we could have got more information about this Jerry Springer documentary, but instead it did leave a lot to be desired. So my overall score, because I'm kind of torn on this, I'm kind of down the middle, so that would make my score a 2.5 out of 5. Have you seen this documentary? Is it going to be one that you're going to check out? Well, let me know down below in the comment section so we can continue the discussion down there. If you haven't already, you can join these legends on screen today via my Patreon. Click the link down below in the description box to join today from only £2 per month. And in the meantime, if you haven't seen these videos of mine, we'll click over here, have a bit of a deep dive. Till next time, I'll see you guys. I'll be seeing you later.